Every year, thousands of Americans are diagnosed with illnesses caused by asbestos, a toxic mineral once used in almost every building, factory, and shipyard across the country. If you or your loved one is suffering from an asbestos-related disease like mesothelioma or lung cancer, the law gives you the right to take action. In this video, we'll explain how an Asbestos Exposure Attorney USA can help you identify where the exposure happened, prove who was responsible, and recover financial compensation that can secure your family's future. Stay tuned till the end. This information could literally change your life. In a modern USA law office filled with soft sunlight, a serious-looking asbestos exposure attorney reviews important client documents with focused attention. The warm light coming through the window highlights the calm yet intense atmosphere, reflecting the weight of the case in the lawyer's hands. His organized desk, professional posture, and thoughtful expression show a deep commitment to understanding every detail. This moment captures the dedication and responsibility required to represent victims of asbestos exposure, setting the tone for trust, professionalism, and strong legal guidance right at the beginning of the article or video. What is asbestos exposure and why it's dangerous? Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral that was once called the miracle fiber because of its strength and heat resistance. It was used in insulation, brake pads, pipes, construction materials, and even household products throughout the 20th century. Unfortunately, when asbestos fibers are inhaled, they lodge deep inside the lungs and cause diseases decades later, including mesothelioma, asbestosis, and lung cancer. The U.S. government has now strictly regulated asbestos use, but millions of Americans were already exposed before those rules existed. That's where an Asbestos Exposure Attorney USA steps in to hold negligent corporations accountable for putting profits before people's health. A professional asbestos exposure attorney USA investigates the source of exposure, finds which company was responsible, and builds a strong case for justice and compensation. Inside an aging, dimly lit factory, a worker dressed in full protective gear stands surrounded by floating asbestos dust, showing the harsh reality of exposure risks many laborers once faced. The cracked walls, old machinery, and airborne fibers create a realistic scene of danger that was often invisible and ignored for years. The workers' cautious movements and heavy equipment highlight the seriousness of these environments, where a single shift could lead to lifelong health consequences. This visual connects powerfully to the topic of how asbestos exposure happens, reminding readers of the hazardous conditions millions of workers experienced in old factories, construction sites, and industrial plants. How an Asbestos Exposure Attorney USA can help. These attorneys specialize in asbestos litigation, a complex area of law that requires deep medical and scientific knowledge. A skilled Asbestos Exposure Attorney USA will review your medical records and confirm asbestos-related diagnosis, identify the workplaces or products that caused your exposure, locate witnesses or coworkers who can support your claim, file lawsuits or trust fund claims on your behalf. Most importantly, a qualified asbestos exposure attorney USA knows how to deal with companies that deny their role in your illness. They collect historical company records, old safety documents, and expert testimonies to prove negligence. Many law firms in the U.S. offer free consultations and operate on a no-win, no-fee policy, meaning you pay nothing unless you win compensation. Types of compensation you can receive when you hire an Asbestos Exposure Attorney USA. You're not just seeking justice, you're protecting your financial future. Compensation in asbestos cases may include medical expenses for treatment and medication, lost wages and future income, pain and suffering, travel costs for medical visits, compensation for family members, wrongful death claims. Some asbestos manufacturers filed for bankruptcy years ago, but the U.S. government required them to create asbestos trust funds. Today, billions of dollars are still available in these funds for victims, and a trusted Asbestos Exposure Attorney USA can help you access them quickly without even going to court. In a clean, modern office setting, a lawyer patiently explains the asbestos claim process to a concerned client using a clear legal chart displayed on a tablet. The attorney points to each step: exposure history, medical proof, filing deadlines, compensation options, with a calm and reassuring tone. The client listens closely, relieved to finally understand a complex legal journey that once felt overwhelming. The warm lighting and organized workspace emphasize clarity, transparency, and guidance. This visual perfectly represents the step-by-step support victims receive when filing an asbestos claim, making the legal process feel manageable and structured. Statute of limitations: why you must act fast. One of the most common mistakes victims make is waiting too long to file a claim. Every state in the U.S. has a statute of limitations, a time limit that decides how long you have to take legal action after diagnosis. An experienced asbestos exposure attorney USA knows these deadlines vary by state. For example, California allows 1 year after diagnosis, while Texas allows 2 years. Missing this window means losing your legal right to compensation forever. That's why it's critical to contact an asbestos exposure attorney USA as soon as possible after learning about your illness. Real U.S. cases and success stories: thousands of Americans have already won justice thanks to experienced asbestos lawyers. A retired shipyard worker in Virginia received $2.3 million after his attorney Pravet inhaled asbestos dust while working on naval vessels. In another case, an electrician from Ohio won $1.5 million after an asbestos exposure attorney USA showed the company failed to warn him about the risks. These real cases show that justice is possible, and that with the right asbestos exposure attorney USA, victims can rebuild their lives with dignity and financial security. A medical doctor stands beside a light board displaying lung X-rays, explaining the visible damage to a man in his 50s who listens with concern. The X-rays reveal scarring and abnormalities commonly linked to asbestos-related diseases. Behind them, a lawyer quietly observes, connecting the medical findings to the client's exposure history. The scene blends medicine and law in a single moment, showing how both fields work together to prove that asbestos exposure caused the illness. This powerful image highlights understanding, collaboration, and the emotional weight carried by victims as they face the reality of their diagnosis. How to get started. Filing a claim may sound overwhelming, but it's actually a straightforward process with the right lawyer. Here's what you can do today. 1. Contact an asbestos exposure attorney USA for a free consultation. 2. Gather medical reports and work history documents. 3. Let your lawyer handle the paperwork and investigation. You'll be updated regularly, and most cases settle without ever going to trial. Remember, the earlier you act, the stronger your case will be. A reliable asbestos exposure attorney USA can start your claim immediately and fight for the justice you deserve.